Evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Hi, I'm Renee, and I am an addict. Can we open up with a moment of silence, Father, by the God of my understanding, for the ones who struggling inside and outside of the walls. Have to take a moment and honor our high power and thank God for everything that He's done. But I hope y'all had a good day today. I hope everything was good for y'all. I hope everything was what you wanted it to be. A shout out to the 12 Steps of Narcotics Anonymous program. Shout out to the recovery facilities who facilitates the in and out patient, the ones that's in treatment, that's trying to find their way. Keep it going for the ones who struggling and don't know which way to go. You got to turn your life over to the care of God as you understand Him. I thank God for my supporters. Hey, Auntie, I see you. How you doing? I thank God for my supporters who've been supporting me all this way. Some of them started last year when I was doing it last year. But I thank y'all. I thank you. I thank the ones that's still going on, the ones who lost a loved one, son, daughter, someone to addiction. I lost a son to addiction. Hey, Robin, how you doing? I lost a son to an addiction. And I'm so glad that if God chose for him to die here with me, He did. And I thank God for the 37 years that He allowed me to have a loving son and for me to love him back. Thank God for you all, my supporters on here who comes on every week, and even for the ones definitely who comes on at night and through the day. And I thank y'all for that. But tonight, girl, it says, ain't no stopping us now. Did you hear what I said? Ain't no stopping us now. We are on the move for change. And people say, Renee, what do that, when you come up with your topics, how do you come up with your topic? I said, I don't. Whatever He puts in my head, that's what I write on that paper. Because, the God is the head of my household. And He is the one that's going to take care of all of us, not just me. The ones that get on here, the ones that come over here, the ones that's recovering, the one that's trying to and doing what they need to do to change. It says, ain't no stopping us now. And what do that mean? Well, for me, I must explain what that means. What it means to me is that when I was using drugs, no matter what got in the way, I still used drugs. No matter what bad decision I made, what U-turn that I didn't turn right, whoever feelings I heard or what I became, I didn't stop. The disease of an addiction is a terrible way to die, and it's a terrible place to be in when you're not in shape, in mind to figure things out. When I came in, I was lost. Sometimes God has to take me back to where I was and see the difference of where I'm at today. And today it's a big difference. Today I understand it's a disease of an addiction. And I hate this disease. And I say it all the time because, if you ain't been on drugs, if you ain't been on alcohol, if you ain't been on all the other different kind of drugs that the body allow us to do so we could feel good and get away from things, then you wouldn't understand. Recovery is something very deep for most people who come in, because most people that come in has been broken, has been letting people down, has been hurting people, and the biggest one we have hurt were ourselves. And the reason why I say ourselves, because we was up under the influence of addiction. And addiction, it has no turning point for us. It just keep on doing what we allow it to do. When I was using, I went to any length I could to get my drug of choice. And I came to a point in my life that I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I couldn't stop. When we tell people we can't stop because of the urges and the disease, people think that we don't know what we're talking about. And I don't like when people say, well, all you need is a God. All you need to let go and let God. It ain't that easy. It wasn't that easy for me. Now, I don't know about nobody else, but it wasn't that easy for me. And I believed in God. I knew God. Well, I was brought up in the house of God. I know God. I knew I had a personal relationship, but it still wasn't enough to let go of the disease of an addiction. So when people come to you and say that, and they say things, what worked for them might not work for everybody else. And I know that for a fact, because I know that dealing with people's and and getting the phone calls and email, this disease is cunning, and it's very hurtful, and it's very powerful. And I had got to a point where I didn't care. I had got to a point, as long as I can get my fix, as long as I can do what I needed to do to get my choice of drugs, and I was running. I really had been running all my life. Didn't nobody know that but me. Didn't nobody know that but me. Hey, Latrice. Didn't nobody know good to see you. Didn't nobody know that but me. I was the one with the addiction. I was the one that was running. I was the one that couldn't stop. I was the one that changed my behavior. I was the one that changed my attitude. My character defect was messed up. So can't nobody tell me when we're using, we don't know something is wrong. Something was wrong with me. And I couldn't stop. I tried to stop. Over and over and over and over again, I tried to stop. When the pain get great enough, it'll take you to a different point in your life. When the pain get great enough, it'll take you and make you realize you need some help. When the pain got great enough, and I'm talking about a lot of pain. When the pain got great enough, I went searching. I went searching for help. I had to find the God of my understanding that could grab a hold of me and tell me and help me and show me that I'm on the path of dying. Or we get on the path of dying. It's like a slowly death. It's like, every day we take something to feel good and we don't know what it's doing to our body, so we continue to take it because it makes us feel better. At least we think we feel better, And when I tell you, I went from grace to amazing grace. And I know the ones that I deal with and the ones that I see know what I'm talking about. I know you know what I'm talking about. We come to a place in our lives where we don't care. We tired of trying. We don't care about hurting ourselves and loving ourselves, and we don't care about that. We lost that along the way due to the addiction. Now, people say, well, it was a disease that caused me to do a lot of things. Well, up under the influence of disease, up under the influence, we will do things that we normally don't do. Now that I know for a fact. We would do things that keep us using, that keep us hurting, that keep us. But I found a God of my understanding who could wipe the tears away and tell me, Renee, it's going to be okay. But you got to listen. You got to have an open willingness and a mind to want to change. And when I got to that point, I knew the God of my understanding was sending peoples and sending me places to help heal and to understand this disease of an addiction. Now, this disease is very powerful. It'll take over. It'll take over if you let it. It took over my whole life. All I wanted to do was use. All I wanted to do is manipulate people to give me some drugs, some money for some drugs. All I wanted to do is stay high. And I'm so glad that we found change. It says, ain't no stopping me. Well, the reason I say that, the reason I believe that God gave me that topic was because it wasn't, once I came into treatment, it wasn't no stopping me. I was in it for the long haul. I had burnt a lot of bridges. I had tore up the inside of my body. My mind was corrupted, and my character defects was, it wasn't there. It just wasn't. When I think about all the things that I did just to get high, and how I hurt people, and how I hurt me, and how I hurt the ones that believed in me, but let me tell you about this addiction. This addiction, I found out that, even in my using, people still trusted me. And they still believed in me, so they kept giving me money. They kept helping me. They kept giving me money to use. I kept using. I had this way of looking down and looking pitiful and coming up with lies that would I wasn't. My thinking made me think that I was nobody. I had left me a long time ago. I had to find a new way to live, and I didn't know how. And I asked God, please help me, send me resources, send me people, send me somebody that can help me understand this addiction. And He did that. And I thank God for that. I thank God for all the therapists. I thank God for all the counselors. I thank God for everybody. Sterling White is a wonderful counselor. He been there and done that. And I went into treatment. And once I got into treatment and I understood the disease of an addiction, and I understood that this is no cure for it, the only cure that I can see that have helped me all these years was don't pick up. And to me, that's the only cure I know of. That if you don't pick up, it won't do what it's supposed to do. It won't bother you. If you don't bother it, it won't bother you. And when we up in that addiction, we don't hear nothing. We only see what we want to see. We only understand what we only want to understand what we want to understand. But I'm here to tell you that God is the head of my life, and He helped me find a foundation. Thank God for the NA of Narcotics Anonymous program, and I love Him for that. I love Him for helping me to understand this disease, helping me to get myself on the right track, helping me to understand I must change it. We should not stop. Ain't no stopping us. We have to do what we continue to do in order to stay clean. you know, and once you stop doing what you've been doing or supposed to have been doing, then you find yourself in a cage. I know I was in a cage in my head many times, many days that I couldn't think right. I just couldn't think right. The drugs had me to where, you know, I beat myself up. I didn't need nobody else to beat me up, but I beat my own self up. I mean, I beat myself up even when I was high because a part of me know that I needed to stop. But just be honest, anything that make us feel good, we don't want to stop. And then a God of my understanding came to me one day and said, Renee, he had to show me a dream, and the dream was me laying in a casket, and I can see my mama. I thought about her today. I was like, you know, Mama, I miss you so much. I said, but thank God you was a part of my process before you left this world, you know, and God had to show me dying and in my own casket and seeing my family members for that to be a wake-up call for me. And did it work? Yes, it did. Because reality had hit right then and there. This is what's going to happen if you don't continue to stop using and continue to keep on using. Eventually, you will die. And I thank God for ruling awakenings. I thank God for showing up like he do. I thank God for having a connection with me, and I can talk to this man anytime I get ready. I can understand what he's trying to help me with. But let me tell you, so some people don't believe they having a disease. Some people don't believe they have a problem. The only person you can worry about is yourself. You can't try to fix, manage, and control nobody else. They got to understand this addiction all by themselves and with the unity of people just like us. You know, I'm real proud that we came up with the High Steppers. You know, High Stepper was a very wonderful women's support group that women from all over the world would come to. And it was so many of us. So now I'm back trying to get everybody, you know, because ain't no stopping me. So I'm trying to get everybody to come back in so we can have a High Stepper reunion in June, the first week of June. We're making some flyers, and you know, women's need a women's support group, because as I go down, I don't see many women's support groups. And so we're going to get it started back. It's going to be in the first week of June, that Friday. And I asked God to come on in the room. You know, let us get all them high steppers, them strong women to come back and sit around the table. So Friday, we will be in June. Look for the flyers. And it's going to be a celebration too, because then that Saturday we going to a brunch, and then after that, every Thursday night at 12 step, the High Stepper would be doing their meetings all over again. It's going to be a good reunion, y'all, and I'm looking forward to it. You know, when God tell us to do something, we have to obey, and it's the reason why he tell us that. Women's are hurting, just like men's is hurting too, but we don't find too many women's support meetings. So it's time for us to get it together. And I'm excited. I called a bunch of people. I'm excited. Come on, ain't no stopping us. Let's get it going so these women can sit at the table with strong women and let the newcomers come in and know that this program works. See, I know this program works. Ain't nobody got to tell me this program don't work. This program made me identify some things that I didn't think that I could identify with. It made me realize that I am a loving, kind person. But loving, kind people make mistakes. Loving, kind people, you know, they do things. We're not perfect. We just wanting to learn how to get better. I always say that because people think we perfect. No, we ain't perfect. We might make it look perfect. Do you hear me? We might make it look perfect, but we ain't perfect. We just ain't stopping. We got to keep on continuing this. This is our lifeline right here. This is our safety net. This is what keep us from using. And And we have to get on the move to keep something going and move around and bring something to the storefront so we can connect and help with other people. That's what it's all about. Helping other people, allowing them to be free like we learned how to be free, learning how to accept a person for who they is, and to guide them and help them to show them that this drugs is real. You know, this, I don't know why people think it ain't, but because every time, you know, I done had so many people that die on me, you know, and some of them was clean. You know, some of them was clean, but I was so glad they was able to get clean. You know, it says ain't no stopping us now, and that's the truth. Because a lot of people that I deal with and see and talk to, they still doing their thing. They still moving on. They not using. They still going to their meetings. They still becoming teachers. They still going to college. You know, one of my other topics I'm gonna talk about. You know, I like that topic because it says, you know, everything the drugs stole from me, we want it back. You know, I started to do that one tonight, but something told me to wait. You know, I know that God is real. I know that. Ain't nobody got to tell me, because I know that. Because the things that I asked him for, the things that he have showed me, the things in my using, you know, I think if you go back and look on how when we are in the midst of using, things happen. You know, and I think when I spoke about how the man came out of the tree and I had a gun to my head, you know, my sister told me, my sister said, you never talked about that. I said, I thought I never would. I thought I would take that to my grave, but, you know, I was laying there reminiscing, and God told me, you must let my peoples know what we went through or what they went through when we was using, and how, to me, how a special gift came to me to help me get on my feet. You know, if I had told that to people, they would have thought I was crazy. But everything I tell you is the truth. On God, so help me. And I went through all them things, and God had to show me some things in order for me to get myself together. And I'm so proud of everyone that comes on here. I'm proud of everyone I see at the meetings. I'm proud of everyone that goes to the meetings or come to the meetings, you know, because it's our own special family. And people might not understand that. It's our own special family that we really connect with. When we can go into the rooms of the Narcotics Anonymous, and we can go into the rooms and we can tell somebody how we feeling, or hearing somebody else share can make us come out of that little shell we in, and we start opening up and really talking about where we at. So, you know, I found a new foundation. Ain't no stopping us. We got to keep on moving. We got to still keep bringing things to the table. We still got to let people know that this disease is real, and it's killing people, and it's hurting people. And I get on here because I know how the disease works. You know, even when you clean, even when you just sitting back, looking back over your life and seeing how God has did wonders in your life, and how you have not only stopped one addiction, but I have stopped many addictions. And see, that's an A+ for me, because I didn't want to just work on, when I said ain't no stopping us, that's what I mean. I didn't want to just stop worried about working on how I use and why I use. I wanted to work on my other addictions. And, you know, we pick up a lot of other addictions. When we in this disease of an addiction, we pick up a lot of more addictions. I know I speak for me, because I know I did. I picked up a lot of more addictions, you know, and you don't know you picking them up. You don't know, because you up under the influence of drugs and alcohol, so you don't know that you picking up other habits. and other addictions, and you can't stop. And, you know, just like when we doing the drugs, so it becomes an addictive personality of ours to keep doing and keep lying and keep stealing and keep manipulating, you know. So I had to work on them too. I couldn't just work on the drug. I had to work on my habits. I had to work on my character. I had to work on my behavior. I had to work on how the drugs had kind of, you know, put the mind in a standstill. You know, and when I said in a standstill, because all we thought about was using, all we thought about was getting high, you know, and whatever we had to do to get it. But see, I wanted to change that. We needed to move on and start working on ourselves, and that's what I did. And by working on ourselves, I found out there was a lot of things about Renee that I did not like. It was, you know, it was the way that my character had changed, the way defects of character had came in and changed who I was. You know, I've always been a person that spoke. I was the only one in my family that I can say out of me, Selena and Phil, that I can truly say was boisterous. You know, I was a protector of my sister, and then I was boisterous. And can you imagine being boisterous when you're already broken and hurting inside when things had happened to you? Hey, Auntie Evelyn, she's another one of my supporters. And you know, and I came a lot. I came far. I just, you know, and when I go back and I look back over my life, I don't want to be that same impulsive person without no patience and without tolerance on how to change something about me, you know. And can't nobody do the work for you but you. You have to do the work yourself. We can pray you up. We can ask God to help you. We can do all that. But that person that has to play a part in his own recovery and want to be recovered and want to stay recovered. You know, when I said it ain't no stopping us now, it ain't no stopping me. Cause I'm on a roll call, and that roll call is I am an addict, and I always need to work on myself. I always need to understand that I am an addict, and I can pick up in any given time that once I become ungrateful and realize where it brought me from and realize where he taken me to, and if I stop, you know, doing the things that I'm doing, I can go back. I'm not exempt. I can go back just like anybody else, but I choose. I'll never use again. I'm going to tell you that straight up. I say that all the time. Because if you had pain nearly as the pain that I had, and when you was coming through and working on yourself, you know, God had to show us what we are running from. Why do we use? Most of us use because we're hurt. Most of us use because we can't forget. Most of us use because somebody done something bad or hurt us bad. And most of us use because we just like the feeling of that was me. I used because it made me feel good. It made me escape. It made me run. It made me not have to think about, you know, the things that I did, the things that was done to me, you know, because when we become an addict, we do things too that we hurt people's too. So it ain't all about what was done to us. It's about what we done to people's too. And I had to kind of analyze that. And that's what happened. And the reason I got high is because I liked it to get high. And it put me in a place to where, you know, I can forget and I can just forget and run with my feelings on being high and didn't have to feel no more and didn't have to. And, you know, that wasn't a good place for me to be, but that was the place I was at that time. And now that I'm clean, you know, running's not in my story. Relapse is not in my story. Using again is never going to be in my story. It's always, you know, wanting to be on the move to change. And I like being on the move to change. I stay busy. You know, they ask me how you do it. I don't. I just stay busy. Because I know when you don't have nothing to do, and if you ain't doing something, and you sitting around, you know, you can find yourself in trouble. And that's why I stay busy. I got to move. You know, I got to do things. I got to come up with things. I got to still go to meetings. I still got to, I still got to hear some stories. I still got to do some service work. I still got to deal with my sponsor. I still got to do the same thing that I've been doing for over 3 decades. And I can't let nothing stop me. Now, I had pain set in and grief set in and hurt set in and all that. Yes, it did. You know, I think the greatest hurt we talk about is when we lose a loved one, you know, and I lost 4 peoples that, I lost more than that. But I'm talking about the person that was real close to me. And I really was scared at one time in my life when I was clean. When my mother died, I was so scared. I was so scared that I wasn't going to make it. And I started doing what they told us to do, you know, pick up the phone. That's your lifeline to call somebody. And I picked up the phone and I was so scared. And, you know, being in the house that we was raised in, being in the house where mama was, you know, and then, you know, I wasn't sure for myself until I had a talk with someone in Mississippi. And then I knew then. I knew, but the hurt took over. Sometimes when hurt take over, we don't want to hear nobody. We don't want to see nobody. We don't want to be around nobody. And, you know, and that's when I buried my mother. And everything that I thought I said to my mama that could have been wrong or was wrong, I had asked her that night when I talked to her, Mama, if I know I did some things that hurt you or said something or wasn't listening, but I just, you know, we was on the phone for like 4 hours from 10 to 2 until she started snowing, see, and that played a toll on me, going to Mississippi, okay. You know, that's why I said we have to keep it moving. You know, ain't no stopping us. We have to keep it moving. Then I lost a son and somebody else. Plenty of people I know in recovery was losing loved ones and sons and husbands and wives. But they didn't use, you know, and I didn't either. You know, I needed to stay connected. And we have to stay connected in these steps. The steps help us stay connected. It helps us to identify why we hurting and what's going on with us and what do we need to do for change. And I knew I needed to do something for change because change was a part of how I became the way I became. You know, when I was using and lying and, you know, I just did crazy stuff when I was using, you know. I remember going to work, putting super glue in my eye, thinking that I was going, thinking it was eye drop. You know, just being high and stupid at the same time. You know, doing things that I know that was the norm. You know, but honey, when I came into treatment, they made treatment fun for me. And they can't make it so much fun, but I made it funner for me. When I came into treatment, I didn't want it to be boring. I didn't want, you know, people say, well, you know, you can't do nothing. I said, that's a lie. You can do a whole lot of stuff. You can still go out and when we have our parties, our convention, we can still party and have our nice time, you know, but we just can't use. And I made my recovery fun for me. I didn't make it boring. I didn't do that. I made it fun for me. And I've been making it fun for me to where ain't no stopping me. You know, that's why I told you I'm so glad we finna get all these women's back together in June. First week of June, called the House Step, and we had a bad meeting. We had some bad meetings when we had the High Stepper Women's Support Group. So we excited. I'm excited about that. It's been years. Everybody done went their way and this and that. So to have a reunion of the High Steppers and a celebration, you know, and we have to come up with things that's going still remind us of how we did it and why did we do it, and what has happened since we've been clean, and relating to other people. So much has happened. I have built a foundation with me. I built a foundation how I ain't never got to use again. And when I tell you never got to use, I mean I ain't never got to use again no matter what happens. And in my life, we have come too far to turn around. You know, to all the people that comes on here, to my supporters, you know, I thank y'all. I keep y'all in my prayers, and I understand that you too need to stay clean. You too have a foundation to where you want to do right and do better. And you know, and the crazy part about it too is that once we become clean, we go through changes. You know, we go through changes with our families, with our kids, you know, with our associates. You know, we get heartbroken, we get to hurting. I mean, everything that brought us into recovery is the same thing gonna keep us in recovery. So, you know, now that I realize there's still gonna be hurt, pain, and grief and all that, I can see that because I've been through it all being clean. And only one time that I wasn't for sure, and that was when my mother died. But then I talked to Dr. Falou. He's dead now. I went and talked to him. I went to the hospital because I just couldn't fathom that the love of my life is going to be gone. But I talked to him and told him who I was, and he cried. He cried with me. He told me I had such a loving mother. Said she didn't see no wrong in nobody. That was my mama. You know, that was the lady that had brought me, Selena and Phil, this far. You know, not to hurt people and misuse people, and love them no matter what they say or what they do. And that's me. You know, because the biggest thing I know that I can do when I tell you ain't no stopping me is to let a person be where they at. Because I know I'm not going to use. I'm not going to even put myself in a situation to want to use. And I'm not going to hang around people, placing in things that could get me started again. Everything I have to stay away from. Hey, Essie, I have to stay away. Good to see you. I have to stay away from. It's some people's now. Guess what? There's some people's in my life now. They were my friend. They were my best friend, but they still using. They still drinking, doing, and I don't mark them. They got to go through what I went through. You know, I can't do their recovery. I can't find the help that they need. I can tell them. They watch me, you know, and I have to remind myself every day that I am a recovering addict. And I can't afford to be around people that's going to cause me any harm or pain. Now, you know, and people say, how do you do that? Easy. When you see trouble coming to you, you got to move away from it. I ain't the type of person that want to go back and argue back and forth because I used to be good in doing that. And it took me out of my character, and it causes me to use and get mad and go get high. And see, I have to protect my recovery. You all have to protect your recovery no matter what happens in your life. And the sad part, the kind of not sad, but the thing that I understand, even when we clean, you know, we in our mind, we think that, you know, that things ain't going to happen. But I'm going to tell you something. If you look back over your life and you saw all the things that you went through and that you did, and then all of a sudden you look back now and you see, man, I still got that hurt. I still got people's hurting me. I still got people's that talking about me. I still, you know, got people that don't like me for no reason. I still got people that try to hurt me and bring me down, you know, so I'm not exempt from that. So I realized that. And so what I do is I move around. When I tell you ain't no stopping us, it shouldn't be nothing that's going to stop you from staying clean. It should nothing be that you're going to stop and get into something that's going to cause you some pain for you to go get back. Because see, when you go back and use it, happens just like that. And I know that for a fact because I watch other people say, how did I get myself back like this? How did I put myself in this situation? And every situation is different. I'm not putting myself in no situation. I know I don't want to use no more. I've been there, done that. And I know I don't want to become the ugly person that I was when I was using. You know, because the words that come out of my mouth were nothing nice. And I had to ask God to forgive me for all that. You know, because the addiction was there, you know. But when they tell you, no matter what, you don't have to use, that's what they mean. You don't have to use no matter what happened. You know, when you and your daughter or you or your sons or your husband and wife don't see eye to eye, you have to walk away. You have to be the bigger person. I love it knowing that I can be the bigger person in a situation when it could get ugly and I can walk away. And that's the best thing that I found out that nurtures me. I don't have to stay in it. I don't have to accept it. I can move around. And you know, sometimes we as recovering addicts, we have to move around because we change don't mean everybody done change. And that's a fact. Everybody haven't changed. You know, I see my change. I understand why I wanted to change. I understand that I need to keep moving. It ain't no stopping me. I have to always, because the older you get, the more you're going to learn. And I had to learn that, you know, when we are recovering, we have to look at situations for what they is and tell ourselves, now this is a bad situation I'm in, and I need to move around. You know, because recovery it's a blessing for me. I don't know what you all call it. Hey, Dex, how you doing, honey? I don't know what y'all call it, but coming into recovery and telling myself I am a recovering addict and showing up for meetings and sitting around the table and my family table. I said my family because they just like me. We all have to struggle to stay clean. And I'm going to stay clean. You know, I do a lot of self-check on me. I do a lot of soul searching with me. I sit back and take a lot of me time. You know, and you know, everybody say you're going to get your rest and sleep. Well, it ain't just about that. Sometimes when I'm in my bed, it don't mean I'm resting and sleeping. It mean that I'm meditating. And it's meaning I'm having a connection with God as I understand Him. You know, because we have to build ourselves up sometime when we start getting a little weak or ain't as strong today that I was yesterday. And hey, John, and we have to remember that. We have to remember recovery is for us to learn about this disease and to understand us. I had to understand why I get so mad when somebody say something to me that I don't like, or when somebody hurt me. I had to analyze that because that kept me getting high. I had to analyze when somebody thought they was better than me, or they act like they was better than me in the family. I had to analyze that because, see, any little trigger, any little thing can start us back to using again. And that's why I monitor my feelings. My feelings is all I have. It's all you have. And we go by our feelings. And I remember when I was going by my feelings, everything that hurt my feelings, or I wanted to drink, or, you know, somebody did something to me or took something from me, I wanted to get high. You know, but see, them was the excuses that I made in order to validate why I wanted to use. And if you're going to use, you're going to use anyway. You don't have to validate anything. And I realized that too. If you're going to use, you're going to use. If you're going to stay clean, you're going to stay clean. You know, and I look back, the worst thing that people can do is feed an addict. You can feed an addict, you know, feed an addict. And I'm telling you that because I'm a recovering addict. And I know how people used to feed me money. Used to give me money. Used to just feed me money and knowing I was getting high. Some of them didn't know. Some of them did know. But, trying to think that you can give an addict some money that's going to help them, that ain't the answer. Because that's what that's what we want. We want more money to go get high, more money to go and do the things we want to do. And so you have to have accountability to understand that your feelings are important in your recovery. And if something is hurting you and harming you, and for me, I have to move around, and that means separate myself where you don't see me in a month. I can do that too. Or separate yourself where I don't even talk to you no more. I just say hi and that's it. That's me too. I learned not to stay in something that can keep me sick and stuck, because I've been stuck and I've been sick before, so I understand that. This recovery has taught me how to allow a God of my understanding to come into my life and to help me with the unknown things that I didn't know about. That's why he sent me to inpatient. That's why I continue to go into outpatient. Wasn't none stopping me. I mean, I liked it, the new way I was living. I liked that I didn't have to go to bed and tell a lie and remember the next day what lie I couldn't even remember. So it put me in a place in my life to where I wanted better for me. So ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Nowhere in the world there ain't no stopping me. And God didn't bless me to come this far for me to turn over and start doing the crazy things that I was doing before. So it's either doing it the genuine way, having a connection with God, keep up with my steps, go to my meetings, talk to my sponsors, see her once a month, and I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with also being able to understand why I became an addict. And that's where I tell you ain't no stopping me, because once you start learning your behaviors and your attitude and your character defect and the way you think, see, coming into recovery helped me analyze that I have accountability to accept who I am and why I'm like this. The reason why I'm like this is because I worked on me. I worked on myself. I understand that I can't use no more. I understand that I can't go and drink. I ain't finna try to play no Russian roulette neither. I can tell you that straight up. I ain't going to no bar where I know that's what they do is drink. I know because I used to live in the bar. So I understand this disease of an addiction, and it'll slip on you. It'll slip up on you if you ain't paying attention, and you'll find yourself back out there, and then the pain gonna get worse, and then trying to get back to your family gets even worse, because this human mind of us think, well, if I come back, they're going to look at me crazy if I relapse. No. That's all a part of recovery. I tell people, that's all a part of recovery. If you relapse, okay, you find out why you relapse, and bring your butt right back on in. That's how you do the program. That's what we mean when it says ain't no stopping us. We got to get in, to fit in, to understand that we are addicts. We are recovering addicts. And the only way we heal, or only way we don't use it, we don't pick up. If I don't go get it, then I won't use it. If I don't make a phone call for it to be brought to me, I won't use it. I got to look at all my behaviors and what caused me to keep using. Well, I told y'all, want it, and I'll tell you another thing. Want it your way, and the way you want it. It wasn't just, you can't just say, well, I understand you use because you're an addict. No, our behaviors and our attitude. People get me so messed up when they say, well, the drug made me do this. The drug can't make you do nothing if you don't put it in you, if you don't pick it up. Just like a drink. I remember I could walk in the bar and I can be just as funny, still funny. But once I took that drink, everything was funny. I mean, I would laugh at things that I didn't even know why I was laughing. Why I was laughing. Because I couldn't stop. They said, one is too much and 1,000 is never enough. And that is so true. Because if I hadn't picked that one, then I wouldn't have been chasing them thousands to keep on drinking and keep on using. You can play Russian roulette. It's nobody a body but yours. And once you want to stop using, you go to any length to get the nurturing and the understanding of this disease that we got our kids. Our kids is using. Our children is using. Our grown-ups are still using. Our mothers and fathers are still using. And when I tell you that when your mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers, that's what broke up a lot of homes. That's what broke up the addiction. The world of drugs and alcohol and not being with your family and doing your thing and getting high. This disease of addiction broke a lot of marriages up. It broke a lot of families up. You would probably still be married if you wasn't using and taking the money to go using, and every dime you get, you go and spend it. Okay, so that's why a lot of times, we say the drug did what it was supposed to do. You put it in you, that's what it's going to do. It's going to make you crave and want some more drugs. You take a drink, you keep drinking, you're going to want some more drinking, and sometimes you can't get no more drunker than you are. But in our minds, we still want to, we are free to feel good as much as we want to, as long as we want to, and how long we want to. So when I found out recovery is a point in your life that when you come into recovery, you being blessed. When you found a new way to live, you being blessed. When you have a new foundation to follow behind and knowing that you ain't never got to use again, you already been blessed. So I know what my blessings is. My blessings is because I changed the way I think, I changed the way I act, and I changed the way that I go to people. Some people I just don't fool with. Recovery didn't tell us to be stupid. Recovery showed us how to wake up and how to be mindful of the way we say things. We ain't living in that past when we was using and we could say whatever we want to say. I wasn't no joke when I was using. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. And, ask my sister, ask anybody that know me, because if you even looked at me wrong, because I was so broken and had so much pain and hurt, I thought everybody was out to hurt me. Everybody was out to get me. You trying to make me mad. And I looked at that because I didn't have a foundation to follow or use to help me understand this addiction. And I used 365 days in a year. And that's a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs. Hey, why am I still here? I asked God, I said, God, why? Why am I still here? You allowed me to go through all that. And I used to ask him, why am I still here? Well, now I know why I'm here. I absolutely know why I'm here, because he wanted us to see the best in us, to see the difference from where we were. Come on, Renee. Where we were and where we are today. So now I know why. I know why God allowed me to fall. I know why God allowed me to go through the things that we went through. I know why God allowed us to be broken and not to try to work on how to get fixed. Because I was the type of person that always took my will back. I was that person. Didn't nobody make me like that. I choose to be like that. And I thought I was good. I want it now. I want this. It's going to be my way or no way. Oh, girl. So recovery has taught me how to work on everything. It don't just teach you how to reframe the mind of thinking you want to use. It takes you to heal and understand your ways. It's our ways that got us high. It's our benevolent ways. It's our way of wanting to do things our way. Didn't want nobody to tell us nothing. Didn't care who we hurt. So when we come into recovery don't just teach you to sit around and we all talking about where we were. It teach you a whole lot of stuff. That's why we have the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. That's why we hate a basic text. That's why we have the NA morning basic. We got all kind of books. And I read them. And I understand them. When I'm reading, I'm like, ooh, that was me. Boy, that was me. Oh, I thought I was the only one that dealt with that, but that was me right there. So if I'm reading what you telling me, that means I ain't the only one that dealt with that. So it's recovery. Recovery is really good. And people, and I don't care. When it come to me telling you if we go out to dinner or something else, I'm recovering addict. I don't drink. I do not drink. I don't use. I went out to dinner with a young guy. Well, he wasn't young, but I went out to dinner the other night, and he been asking me for a couple of months. And so I finally told him, yeah. And we went out, and we got to talking, and he had champagne. And he said, you want a glass? I said, no. I said, I'm recovering. I said, I told you that from jump I'm recovering. He said, baby, it slipped my mind. I didn't want to meet. I said, no, I don't. If you drink champagne, I ain't drinking it. It ain't going to hurt me. I said, but I don't drink. I don't use. He said, but you know what, Miss Lady? He said, you know what, honey? Most of the women's and most of the men's be trying to date and trying to get out with one another, and you have to slip and find out that they're using, slip to find out they still using. Won't none of them come to you and say, no, I'm a recovering addict. I just told them straight up, I'm a recovering addict. I don't do that. I don't do the things I used to. Cause see, that's a part of my life, and anything that's the biggest part of my life, I have to tell you up front, because that's who I am. And that's who I want to continue to be, and then you meet these guys and and they got, when it says ain't no stopping us now, that's what that means. No matter what comes our way, you have to be careful who you meet. You have to be careful of the first impression. Because I've had a lot of guys that give me the first impression. They'll buy you flowers. They'll do all this. They'll help you. And then all of a sudden, when they think they got you, or when you start going together, something happens. And it's called change. Something changed. And so I look at that. I'm not looking at really the first impression. I'm looking about how you act as a human being. Are we talking? And with this other guy, I saw him drink, then he got another drink. No, he went from champagne to liquor. Champagne to liquor. He tell me, well, most ladies you find, they all want you to give them money and buy them stuff and buy them food and all. I said, them are the women that's insecure. Them are the women who don't have a job. Them are the women that want to take and take and take. I'm not that woman. But I told him at the end of the night, I said, we had a good conversation. Everything was good. But as I watched him take them shots of liquor, I said, nope, this ain't for me. And he said, well, I hate that, baby. I do drink. I said, okay, but that ain't got nothing to do with me. You can still drink. It's just I'm not finna date no man that drinks. Because they get retarded like I used to get retarded when I got to drinking. So I'm not setting myself up to get clean and be clean all these years to accept some things. I watch my uncle. He the type that he can just go take a little drink or wine and he done. But not sit there and keep asking for shots and liquor and this and that. And I done told you I'm a recovering addict. So my feelings didn't matter to you. Because now I got to smell that. I got to smell that liquor. You went from champagne to liquor. So what I do, I told him at the end of the night, I said, it was good talking to you. We had a good conversation. I said, but I don't want to continue to see you. Because I have standards just like you have standards. Your standards is you're going to drink no matter what nobody say to you because you just did it in front of me. You just drank and you just got drunk. And then when you got the drinking, you start changing. Your words start slurring. And I got to ask you what you're saying. No, ain't no stopping me now because I'm in a place in my life. It's just I'm not accepting anything that makes me feel good or because I've been lonely or because I want a relationship or because I want to be in something. At what limit? At what limit will I go through to get all that? What limit will I demeanor myself to accept you for the stuff that I know I can't do? So that's where I was. And he had like he got an attitude, but I didn't care. I had my own car. I can get in my own truck, and I was gone. And I said, God, well, you know what? It didn't work. It's okay because I'm not accepting nothing that's not good for me. You know, because I did all that bull crap when I was using. I accepted everything. You know, yeah, you can have a wife and a girlfriend because I got a guy and messing with somebody's husband, you know. So, you know, it was just out to make us ourselves feel good. I don't do that. I live my life totally different. I live my life like I appreciated everything God done for me, everything He's doing for me. You know, my worth is important to me. Used to be my worth wasn't important. You know, I didn't care, but when you start finding yourself and working a program, and it's been over 30 years for me, you know, I ain't bringing no chaotic to me because I know what chaotic people can do. I was once a chaotic person. I ain't gonna lie. Man, I know how I've changed. People tell me, say, Renee, you ain't nothing like you used to be. No, but when you work on yourself, that's the reason why we work on ourselves, so we can change. So we won't, that's why I say ain't nothing stopping me. Ain't nothing stopping me. I got to stand on something and have a good foundation in my life to see it get better. You know, and I seen my life get better. I seen my life get better in my thinking, in my loving, and being kind. In my peace. I take my peace. I get my peace. You know, I go in my room or I chill out and my kids will say, Mommy, you going to your room? They know what I'm going to my room to do. They going to know I'm going in my room to get peace, give them their space. And I want my space, you know, but I love the peace that I didn't have before. I love the joy. See, that's what recovery do for you. It give you some joy. Oh my God, I go in the bathroom. Come on, Renee. And I see 30, 50, 40, all kind of rolls of tissue paper up under the toilet. Every time I go in the bathroom, I tell my kids, I said, God, you are so good. Because when I look at the toilet and the sink and I think about how I didn't even have a roll of tissue paper, how I couldn't even come back up. In them days, tissue paper was like, you can get a 15, it was 25 cents a roll back then. And when I go in the bathroom, I have to laugh when I open up my doors because now I don't want to see no lost tissue paper. It's got to be full. You know, it's got to stay full. Kids, I go in there and I look and I see it's 5 or 6 rolls living. Missing. I'm going back to the store and buy some more rolls to place that. And I know that becomes a habit for me because the habit for me was that I never could keep a roll of tissue paper because I would smoke it up, drink it up, and then when I go to looking for pennies and nickels, I didn't have them. And I would be out of rolls of tissue paper, so I got to go find some paper or go find some newspaper and to wipe my butt. See, I don't forget about stuff like that because that's called a reality check. And I don't ever want to be in that. I don't ever want to be in that no more. Ever will I want to have to go and grab a curtain or some tissue paper or something to wipe my butt because I ain't even got a roll of tissue paper. So now if you come to my house today, you're going to see it's full. And it's going to continue to stay full because that was one of my habits. And I thank God for every day that I can wake up. Y'all should, you know, when we get clean, it ain't just about getting clean and not putting the drugs in us. It's about working on our behaviors, our attitude, how we yearn for them hugs at the meeting to show us love. Because sometimes our own family won't give us that. So it's been a roller coaster for me. It ain't no stopping me no more because I know my worth. I know what I want. I know what I told God I wanted. I know what I told him to send me. And if he don't send me nobody, that means God don't want me with nobody. He want me to continue to be the flourish person that I am and get out here and do the things that I do. So I told the God was left up to you. And when you leave up something to the God of our understanding, you better believe it's going to come out right. If you wait on the God of our understanding, everything is going to come out right. Ain't nothing gonna be wrong. Ain't nothing. If God is sending you somebody, he gonna send you the right person. And if that right person done fool God, and God ain't too hard to fool. He know who he wants you to be with. And I know that right now, My life is contained about me staying clean. People think staying clean is just about, no, not buying no drugs and getting drugs. No, it ain't about all that. It's about seeing the change in us, seeing the movement that we make, and how this year gonna be different than last year. And wasn't nothing wrong with last year. I just want to make this year better than I did last year. So you have to come to a point in your life to know your worth, to know your strength, to know what you're capable of, to know that you have to stay in a foundation that's good for you, and you cannot move out of that foundation or you're going to find yourself back out there again. Hanging with the wrong people can do it. Trying to be like somebody else can do it. I don't try to be nothing but Renee. I ain't trying to act like in front of you I got a paw full of money. They asked me the other day when I went and got the kids some clothes, and they was asking me and said, Renee, he said, you want something to juice? I got me a juice, and I turned my back, I take my little money out, because, sometimes I don't want to catch myself getting robbed. I wear a lot of jewelry, and I don't want to catch myself being out too late. Because you still have people that's not on the foundation like me, and they will take your stuff. So I always try to, be in the daylight and watch where I'm going, because I like jewelry. I like to see where my money went. I like to know where because when I was using, I used to sell all my jewelry. I used to sell everything. And I had so much jewelry, it ain't nothing to brag about. So don't tell nobody I was bragging. This was real talk. I used to have so much jewelry, I could go to my safety deposit back, and when if I knew I was going to use, I would tell one of my kids, y'all take the key and hide it from me. And, after I locked my door, because I know I would go in there and get some more jewelry to get high. But so I knew I had enough sense to give my kids the key to lock my door and take my safety deposit thing, and I still got it today. That's been over 30 years. I got the same big old. And my thing is to say to you, when your life means something to you, everything you give in your life is gonna be meaningful for you. You can't come to me. You can't. Before I close, girl, I'm always going, it goes so fast. I'm sorry, y'all. Like the AT&T peoples came. They wanted me to switch, and I didn't want to switch. Then they came back today, and that made me upset. Because if I tell you no yesterday, that means I don't want it today. You still want me to drop Spectrum and go to AT&T? I don't want to do that. And I had to go to them. I said, please don't come back here. Y'all, now, if I wanted to, I'm not. Because y'all scaring the daylights out of me. Because you done been in my house 3 times. And I done told you no 3 times. But sometimes people just don't get it. I just understand that. But, and it's like that with recovery. Hey, I don't drink. You drink. I don't drink. No, I can't drink. I can't use. I've been there. I've done all that. You don't know what kind of brokenness drugs and alcohol done for me. I was totally lost. I had to learn and find Renee in the right way all over again. I had lost me in the disease of an addiction. I had lost my worth. I had lost my accountability to know what's right and wrong. I had lost my loving and kindness. I had lost everything. And I don't want to ever take a chance of losing that again, because it wasn't easy for me to get back and get what God wanted me to get. And now that I have it, I ain't no stopping me. And we are on the right move to change, and I want to change, and I have changed, and I want to continue to change, but I also want to know who I am. I had to ask my son going back and forth to jail, do you know who you are? Son, what is it going to take? What is it going to take? And my son is so kind and good, and he know a lot of white people, black people, and everybody speak good for him, but one thing he got a problem with is trying to be something that you're not. trying to be something. I sold drugs. I did it for 22 years. And I know you ain't going to win selling no drugs. I know you won't win when you become the user of your own selling drugs. So I had to go through a lot of change in order to want to change and to know my limits. I know my limits in anything. You know, I know my limits of shopping. I love to shop. I love to shop. So this week I said I'm not shopping, but I did. I took a dear friend out and got her nails and feet done. She had been really sick, had a heart attack and and I took her out, and she didn't know I was going to do that. And I got her feet done and her nails and took her shopping at the store, and she was crying. But see, I remember this lady. Let me tell you why before I close. I remember this lady. I remember when I first came in, how she treated me and my kids. How she would bring food. How she would come bring them Christmas presents. You know, I remember that. And when somebody been nice and kind to you, you don't never forget it. And to take her out and flourish her, and she was crying, and we sat and we went to Red Lobster, what is it called? Red Snapper on Silver Spring, and we ate, and and I felt good doing it. I felt good because she's always been good to me. She's always was there for me and my, kids, and I appreciate that. And I'm going to get her again because she's been really sick. God kept her here for a reason. And I never forget when somebody been good to me. You know, everybody don't be good to you. They don't. People don't treat you like you treat them. I know that for a fact. I live that. So I thank God. But anyway, you know what, y'all? Y'all have the best. I have the best followers in the world. And I thank y'all for that so much. And I bet you we are on step 12 this Sunday. And I love this step. This is the best step. From working 1 to 11. It says, having had a spiritual awakening, as a result of these steps, we tried to carry the message to addicts. You hear me? To addicts. And practice these principles in all our affairs. This is a good step. And I'm going to give it to you real good. And, we go through this. We go from 1 to 12. All through the months. And I bet you I never say mostly the same thing on each step. It's always different. God always gives me something. So I thank y'all. Have a good night, a prosperous weekend, and stay safe. And thank you, Auntie Evelyn, Auntie Wanda, John. I thank you, Robin. I thank you. And for the ones who's coming on later, I thank you for being a part of my process. And I thank me for being a part of my own process. And I thank you. So I'll see y'all Sunday at 2 o'clock. And we'll be on step 12. And if ain't nobody else told you this, if ain't nobody told you they love you, tell them, say, Miss Renee says she loved you. God continue to bless you. And I'll see y'all on Sunday. Thank you.